Hello and welcome back to Simply Biology. In today's video we're going to be looking at glycolysis. Now glycolysis is the first stage in what is known as aerobic respiration, and it can also occur in anaerobic respiration. We're going to be looking at why we need energy, what an overview of the process of glycolysis, the pathway of glycolysis, and then a summary of the stages in aerobic respiration. So, without further ado, let's get started. So, firstly, why do we as humans need energy? So we need energy for a variety of different reasons. So this is energy in the form of ATP, which is adenine triose phosphate. And remember, that's a phosphorylated nucleotide that has three phosphates attached to an adenine nitrogenous base and a ribose sugar. And remember, it's a short-term energy supply. So firstly, we need it for movement. So for running, for walking, or any other physical activity, we need energy, because obviously the energy is produced by respiration, and we need this to be able to walk and conduct our daily activities. Another one is secretion. Now, secretion, such as exocytosis, is an active process, and active processes require energy in the form of ATP. So secretion is another reason why we need energy. Active transport, so active processes, like I've just said, requires energy to either transport something against a concentration gradient, or just simply for anabolic processes. Again, we have bioluminescence, which is the ability of organisms, so biological species, to produce light. This is known as bioluminescence, and for this process to occur, again, we need energy. Anabolic reactions, which is simply put the synthesis of larger molecules from smaller molecules. So for example, the synthesis of DNA from nucleotides. We also have chemical activation and homeostasis. And remember, homeostasis is the maintaining of internal body temperatures within a set range. So now we'll look at an overview of glycolysis. So glycolysis is a first stage in respiration, and it can either occur in aerobic or anaerobic respiration. Now aerobic, remember, is with oxygen, anaerobic is without oxygen. Converts glucose, which is this molecule here that you should have seen before, which is the molecular formula C6H12O6, into a molecule called pyruvate. And we'll have a look at this process in just a minute. This process takes place in the cytoplasm, which remember is where the chemical reactions, it's the fluid-filled center of a cell, it's where the chemical reactions occur. Glycolysis, remember, lysis is splitting, and glyco is a word for sugar. So it simply means splitting up of a sugar molecule. And the reason this process takes place in the cytoplasm is because enzymes which are involved in the process, that are known as dehydrogenase or decarboxylase enzymes, are found within the cytoplasm. Dehydrogenase removes and adds hydrogen, and decarboxylase removes or adds carbons, and this usually is removed in the form of carbon dioxide, CO2. Now, we shall look at the pathway that is involved in glycolysis. So, we firstly start off with a glucose molecule. Glucose molecule is phosphorylated by the addition of a phosphate group from the hydrolysis of ATP. So ATP is hydrolyzed to form ADP. That releases a phosphate. That this phosphate is then added to glucose, and it becomes glucose 1-phosphate. Then it changes to a structural isomer to form fructose 1-phosphate. Fructose 1-phosphate is then phosphorylated to form hexose 1,6-bisphosphate. This and the phosphate group to form hexose bisphosphate is formed again from the hydrolysis of an ATP molecule to form ADP, and that phosphate that's released attaches onto the fructose 1-phosphate to form the hexose bisphosphate. The hexose bisphosphate, remember, is a 6-carbon compound because glucose is also a 6-carbon compound. Remember, C6H12O6, 6 carbons, 6-carbon compound. This hexose bisphosphate, however, is converted to 2 times triose phosphate. So 2 of triose phosphate, because this triose phosphate is a 3-carbon compound. And 3 times 2 is 6. We then go from 2 triose phosphate to 2 intermediate compounds. And these 2 intermediate compounds in this process release 2 NADH and 2 ATP. And the ATP here is produced by a process known as substrate level phosphorylation. And the NADH or NAD is a coenzyme that is reduced to form NADH, and this product goes off into the further stages of aerobic respiration, which is known as oxidative phosphorylation, which we'll come to in a later video. This intermediate is then converted into pyruvate molecules, and an ATP is released. And 2 ATP molecules are formed in the process. And obviously 2 ATP is formed by substrate level phosphorylation. And now here we go, the products. We have a net gain of 2 ATP by substrate level phosphorylation, because obviously we've made 2 ATP, but we've made 4 ATP, sorry, 2, but we've used up 1, 2. So we have a net gain of 2 ATP by substrate level phosphorylation. We make 2 pyruvate molecules and 2 NADH molecules. And these 2 molecules move off into the next stage of aerobic respiration, which takes place in the mitochondrial matrix. And now we're going to have a look at these stages. So this is just a brief overview of the next stages. So like I said before, glycolysis occurs for both aerobic and anaerobic respiration. This NAD is a coenzyme which is involved in the later stages of aerobic respiration. So this, like I said, glycolysis is the first stage. It goes into the link reaction, the Krebs cycle, and oxidative phosphorylation. So these 2 occur in the mitochondrial matrix. This process occurs in the intermembrane space, along the membrane of the mitochondria. So remember, aerobic respiration takes place with oxygen, anaerobic respiration takes place without oxygen. And even without oxygen, glycolysis takes place, but these processes do not. So, thank you for listening to this video, and I hope you found it useful. Goodbye.